Hi gang, this is Mike and I'm going to talk to you for just a short minute here about the differences between renting a property and lease optioning it. You see, when I rent a property, you probably know some of the challenges that we deal with. The people that they say, no, I don't have any pets. Well, they got 3 dogs, 9 cats, and in the car just waiting to come in. And don't worry about cat boxes. They've got them all litter trained to use your carpet, right? I'm just teasing you. But with a lease or lease purchase or rent-to-own program, I generally find that I attract a better class of person with a different mindset, a different mentality. You see, there's 2 types of bad credit. There's the people that never pay their bills, never have, and they don't intend to. We don't want them. What we're looking for, perhaps, are the people that maybe something bad happened to them. They were down a little bit. They're getting back up. They're starting fresh, and they want that American dream of home ownership. That's who I'm looking for. So I run an ad in the paper that says, hey, rent to own or lease purchase with a down payment required. Now, when they call, first question they'll ask is, what type of down payment are you looking for? I then say, well, how much do you have to work with? Well, if they say I've got $3,000 or $5,000 or $6,000, I can usually work with them. If they say, well, all I've got is first month's rent, you don't want that person. Why? Well, because that person really was not looking for a rent to own. They're looking to rent. They have no intentions of cashing you out a year down the road. They're going to fly by night. And remember, if they've got no skin in the game, you don't want that person. Again, if they've got $3,000 to $5,000 down, it's a non-refundable option fee. That's not a deposit. That is a non-refundable option fee. You're going to have 2 separate agreements. You're going to have your rental agreement or lease agreement, and then you're going to have your option agreement, which simply says they have the rights to purchase that house for a specified period of time for a specified price. Perhaps you might lock it in and say, you can buy that property for $80,000, and I'm going to give you 24 months to get your credit cleaned up. At the end of 24 months, they're either going to buy the property or they're going to walk away, shake your hand, grumble, whatever, but you're keeping the non-refundable option fee. Let's talk about payment. Now, you want to take your payment and make sure that you adjust it higher than whatever the bank would charge them if they got a loan. If they go to the bank and to get a loan for, say, that payment price and their payment's normally going to be $700, you want to make sure that your payment is $800. Why? You want them to have a reason to want to cash you out to get rid of you off the property, if you will. For instance, if they know that they're paying $800 a month, but if they got their credit cleaned up and they went down to the local bank and they got a loan, their payment would drop to $700 a month, you literally can say to them, hey, by the way, you'd save $100 a month if you go ahead and get this cashed out. And what you want to do also on price now is you want to set your price to be slightly higher than it normally would be if you were going to retail it through a regular real estate agent or selling the property on your own. For instance, if you've got a property and you choose that you want to sell it for $100,000, well, you want to put that property with the lease option tenant for, say, $110,099. Now, my experience has been the lease option tenant really is not as concerned about the overall price of the house. They're concerned about the payment themselves. It's just that type of person. I've had people call and say, how much is the house? And I say, $700 a month. Oh, okay. A little bit later, they go, and how much was the house? And I say, oh, it's only $700 a month. Oh, okay. And then almost got to the point where we're almost ready to get paperwork on. They go, by the way, how much am I paying for it? You see, that's a good thing because as long as you know that they can afford the monthly payment, in their mindset, you're probably all right. If the person says, I think and I hope that I can afford the $700 a month, don't put them in your house. What you're doing is you're lighting a firecracker, and you're waiting for it to go boom. Now, back to the overall price of the house. Why do we price the house? Why am I saying price it at $110 if you would ordinarily retail it for, say, $100? Well, here's the reason for that. That allows you some room or some spread to give the tenant buyer some equity. Now, well, let me define that. I usually make a deal with them, and I say to the tenant buyer, for every month that you pay me on time, I'm going to go ahead and give you a $200 a month credit of equity purchase toward the property. Now, let me define that. They're never getting any cash back. If they walk away and do not purchase a house, they forfeit that. They didn't build up anything, and it says that plainly right in the option agreement. But here's the beautiful thing about it. Let's use a $200 a month equity credit. That means if they pay for every month that they pay you on time, they get $200 equity credit toward the purchase of the house. At the end of the year, they've got almost $2,500 built up. At the end of a 2-year program, they've got almost $5,000 built up, which comes off the price. So if they're buying the house for $110 and they've accumulated a $5,000 payment, at the end of the 2 years, first of all, it comes off the price. They only owe you $105. Second of all, let's say at that point you've helped them get their credit cleaned up and they're getting ready to go buy a house and their neighbor says, well, why don't you buy this other house? I'll give you a better deal. Well, they're tempted, but they probably won't walk away if they forfeit your $5,000 equity purchase credit. See how we build that in there? So we've got our down payment money, which is a non-refundable option fee. We've got a monthly payment set up for them that they can live with, but it's slightly higher than the bank would give them. But rents are almost always higher than a bank mortgage payment would be anyways. We've got an equity purchase starting to build up. Now let's talk about credit for a second. With credit, what you want to do is you Google this term. Do an internet search for best credit card to rebuild credit. That's best credit card to rebuild credit. If you look that up, you'll usually find 8 or 10 or 12 credit cards that are designed to help people rebuild credit. They're usually secured. What does that mean? If you want a credit card with a $200 limit, you have to send the bank $200. You want a $500 limit, you have to send in the bank $500. Now, I've actually helped tenants, if they've given me, let's say they give me $5,000 down. I get their permission, and we help them send in $200 toward getting a secured credit card. When that comes, then we help them understand how to work it. A couple of key points. Do not ever charge over 50% of your credit limit. Meaning, if you've got a credit card with a spending limit of $200, don't go over $100. You want to show the bank that you actually have some discipline, and you can do it. It's important that they pay it on time. You might even set up so that they get an email account that sends an email from the credit card company, literally telling them when their payment's due so that they can't forget that. Now, if you get 1 or 2 secured credit cards, their scores start climbing up. Another thing you can do is you can start disputing things that are old on your credit bureau. Let's say you do a credit check on them, and there's something from 2 or 3 years ago from a creditor that's quite possibly been charged off or the creditor has given up. All they literally have to do is they write a 1 or 2 sentence letter to the credit bureau saying, hey, please remove this from my credit file. It should not be there. The credit bureau then is required by law to notify the creditor who put it on there and say, hey, you have to prove that they owe this. If that creditor has already charged it off, has already given up, it's in some musty basement or a box somewhere and they don't want to mess with it, guess what? If they don't respond within 30 days to the credit bureau, boom, off the credit file it comes. Now you've got them a secured credit card, their scores are starting to rise, derogatory is coming off, their scores are starting to rise, and you should be able to help them get their credit built up. In today's credit market, at the time of making this video, you have to have a credit score of right around 640 points in order to qualify for your typical home mortgage. Well, so if you're running an ad in the paper, rent to own or lease purchase, and somebody hooks up with you, you probably want to match up with a mortgage broker who will check their credit. You see, the mortgage broker, they get a commission, so they're looking for a way to help your tenant buyer get a loan. Well, if they check their credit and their scores are a 475, don't put that person in your house. What you're doing, again, is you've got a problem. But let's say their scores are a 600 and all they need is a 640, and you're willing to give them 12 months to get their credit scores cleaned up. That becomes a win-win situation. They win because they become a homeowner and achieve the American dream, and you win because you sell the property. Again, see how I structured that? We got somebody that's fairly close, they got a down payment, they got their monthly payment, and they have a verifiable job or verifiable income. Don't put somebody in who says, well, I got a paper out, I think I'm going to get some Social Security, and don't worry, I'm getting ready to win a real big settlement. It's right around the corner. Hooey! If you fall for that kind of stuff, again, you're like a ticking time bomb or firecracker against yourself. So, and if you want to see exactly how a lot of this works in writing, you can go to greatrenters.com and download a free report. That's greatrenters.com, get a free report. So, this has been brought to you by landlordslackertracker.com. This is Mike Pascal saying, I hope you enjoyed this. Refer this to some other people. As landlords, if we all work together, we all win together. Thanks a lot.